Does bad luck exist in bowling? There are bowlers out there that I'm sure are convinced that certain bowlers are luckier than others and that perhaps themselves suffer from constant bad luck. The pins just never seem to fall for them like other people do. But is this the truth? Are certain bowlers luckier than others? Or is it false perception, with the truth being that we actually all make our own luck? We've all heard it before, bowlers complaining that they always get bad breaks, or that certain players are luckier than others, or that perhaps left-handers are luckier, two-handers are luckier, but all of this just seems to reinforce the fact that they themselves can't seem to get the same amount of breaks. And in this video, I'm going to discuss whether or not that is true and whether or not people can be luckier than others. Now, we're watching Jason Belmonte bowl right now, and I think he's a good example, and I'm not suggesting that Belmonte is luckier than any other players, not at all, but I wanted to pinpoint him for a few reasons that we'll find out as this video goes on. I think he's a good example. Now, we can see here some very lucky shots where he's getting messengers, tripping pins, etc. And for some people, they would look upon that and they would see this happen time and time again across multiple telecasts and come up with a false notion that Belmonte is somehow luckier than other players. But what they don't remember are the times when he had a lot of bad luck. To pick one out at random that comes to mind, when he bowled the 2019 Players' Championship in the title match, and he left 2 pocket 710s in one match, the second of which came in the 10th frame, and it proved to be very costly for him as he lost the match and the title to Anthony Simonson. So in that case, he was very unlucky, and there have been many other occasions where things have not gone right for him. We can look to another example, this match where Chris Barnes was playing Walter Ray Williams Jr. Now, when you look at the match, both players were playing just as well as each other. There was a difference though. Walter couldn't stop striking and got breaks like this one where he tripped the 10 pin, whereas Chris Barnes left a number of 9s despite putting down really great shots. Chris Barnes himself had a messenger that came over towards the 10 pin, but it didn't fall. However, Walter Ray's did. So what exactly has happened here? Because both players played a really good game, and to be honest, I don't think there was a lot to separate them in terms of their performance. But it turned out that one player had more good fortune, shall we say, more breaks than the other. Now, there is an explanation for all of this, and it really has not got anything to do with good or bad luck as such. A lot of it has got to do with mindset, probability, and belief. And I'm going to go through this step by step, and hopefully as I do, all of this will start to make a little bit more sense. And I think then you can start to apply it to your own game, and you will find that suddenly the unlucky shots don't affect you so much, and also they don't seem to happen as much as you think. So let's start off with a big reason why people have this belief of good and bad luck and that they are always hit by bad luck. Well, as humans, we always tend to remember the bad experiences. Now that's true in anything, any parts of our lives. We remember the bad and we forget the good. It really doesn't matter what it is. You could be applying for jobs and you're just always going to remember the 30 rejections that you got compared to the time when you finally did get offered the job you wanted. The good times just don't stick in our mind, and it's exactly the same thing that happens while bowling. And this amnesia can happen very often, and it can be as quick as getting a really lucky break in the first game, and then game 2, you're cursing, you're getting really annoyed because you're just leaving 9 after 9. You can't get any pins to fall over or any lucky breaks, and you look around you and everybody else just seems to be knocking the pins down with ease. Instead of focusing on the good times, when you know you were getting your lucky breaks, you conveniently forget about that and focus on all the apparent bad luck that you're getting. What you have to remember is that this is essentially a game of percentages. There are so many different factors that can affect how the pins fall, And there just will be times when things don't go your way. The problem is these things are not an equal split of 50-50. It doesn't happen, in order, if that makes sense. What tends to happen is that you will have a run of bad luck before then having a run of good luck. And the mistake people make is their attitude during the run of bad luck, because then it's actually affecting their performance. It's affecting their mental game, and then before long their whole entire game has just fallen apart and they get into a slump that they can't seem to get out of. If you could remain very neutral and just ride out the bad luck wave, then you would find good things would start to happen a lot sooner. It's like a snowball effect. That is why so many people seem to go on bad runs where just nothing seems to go right. And it's the same for anything, any sport, and really most things in life. And the reason the snowball gets bigger and bigger is because people react to it in the wrong way. And it's very easy to do. We've all been there. We've all done it. You start looking around, getting annoyed, maybe feeling a bit jealous of people who are getting lucky strikes. Then what happens is you start to have these thoughts. These kind of thoughts could be, why always me? Why can't I have good breaks? Oh, I never get that 10-pin to fall down when the messenger comes over. I can never get that lucky spare the way that guy did on lane 5. All of these thoughts come in, and it's dangerous because before long, you're suddenly expecting the bad to happen. You're convincing yourself with all of these thoughts you can't have good luck, that you always get the short straw. Well, guess what? If that's what you start to convince yourself and what you start to believe, then you're simply going to manifest more of the same. If you believe you always miss 10 pins, then you're going to always miss 10 pins. If you believe that you never get the luck when you go Brooklyn, then guess what? That's what's going to happen. I think people really underestimate the power of the mind and are not aware of how these thoughts can really dictate and hurt our performance. They say when it rains, it pours, and that seems to be the case, but I would argue that a lot of the time that happens for longer because people don't realize the damage they're doing with these thoughts that they're having. They're building up this situation where they can't get out of this slump. They believe that this is just how it is for them and that other people don't go through the same thing. But here is the truth. We all know deep down that it swings and roundabouts, that yes, there's times when you don't have good luck at all, but there's also many other times when things go right. How many days have there been when you've gone and bowled and it just feels like everything falls over? It's so easy. The problem is we expect it to be like that all the time, but the reality is that's just not the case. There are going to be times when things don't flow, when things don't work out. The key to dealing with that and to making that bad experience as short as possible is really all in the mental side of your game. So let's talk about a solution. The first thing is to gain awareness. This is the biggest step, and you'll actually find that with awareness, a lot of these problems start to solve themselves. I would recommend to start by really focusing on the thoughts that you have during these moments when you start to get frustrated. So it can normally be a bit of a build up. So let's say you leave a 10 pin, then the next shot you leave another 10 pin and a messenger comes by and misses it. Each shot, that frustration level is creeping up. But what you'll find is that around that point, you might start to have these kind of thoughts like, oh, it's not my day today. Oh, why isn't this falling? I never get any luck. As soon as you have those thoughts, and it is difficult at first because those thoughts are almost automatic. You're almost not aware of them, almost in the back of your mind, but it's important to start to recognize them. Don't try and change them at first, just recognize them. Then start to recognize how your body reacts. A lot of people will act that out. They will start getting frustrated. They start getting angry, talking to themselves, maybe hitting or punching things. So once you've acknowledged those thoughts, then start to turn to your emotions and the sensations in your body and just notice them. You don't have to try and do anything with them to begin with. This is about building up awareness. Once you've got that awareness, I think you will be absolutely surprised about how negative you can be. It becomes such a normal state for some that you just don't realize that there's just no positivity during these moments. And it's a snowball effect, as I said, and this negativity can creep in and suddenly it just becomes who you are on the lanes. After a while, once you've started to build up that awareness, then change can start to come, and it is a slow process, but that's absolutely fine. But I will tell you what the end goal is, and the end goal is to be non-reactionary. The state you need to be in is non-reactionary. So what do I mean by that? It's absolutely fine, in my opinion, to have a reaction where maybe you get frustrated or angry. I think that's fine, and I'll explain why. Disappointment, frustration, etc. can be perfectly normal and healthy reactions. And what it does is, if you can release it in the right way, it's a very instant thing. So having that moment where you feel really frustrated is absolutely fine, because it almost comes and goes. So let's say you leave another 10 pin, you come back, you're really frustrated, and maybe you just, I don't know, you grab your hands, you clench your hands, and you sort of go, ugh, like that. Well, that's releasing it. What people do wrong is they allow that emotion to stay with them. So they're not in fact releasing it, they're holding on to it. And that frustration just carries on to the next shot. But if you're able to step back, you can express disappointment, you can express frustration, but you need to be able to express it and move on. So there's nothing wrong if you want to, punch your hand a little bit or give yourself a bit of a talking to. Like, that's not so much of a problem. I think it's important to work through those emotions, otherwise they become stuck. And that's some advice that you often hear from coaches. They will say, well, just ignore it, those feelings that come up, don't react to it, ignore it. But that's not a solution, because the emotions are still there. You've not done anything with them, they're just sitting there. Whereas with what I'm saying, I don't see it as a problem to express your emotions if you do it in the right and healthy way. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that you go and start punching chairs or kicking the ball return. It could be little things, almost like, a sigh or a grunt of frustration, or, a small slap of the hand, just something to get that emotion out. And then once it's out, that's it, it's done. You move on. The worst thing you can do, and that's what most people do, is they might express it by punching something, but the emotion hasn't really gone. It's still there. It's festering. They're still living that emotion 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 frames later. So where you want to be, ideally, obviously, is you want to be in a very neutral state, but that will take time. The first step is recognition. The second step is processing those emotions and learning how you can deal with them yourself, because we're all different. We all have different ways of processing these emotions, but to find out what works for you, and then ultimately to get to a point where this stuff doesn't even affect you. It might take a little bit of a deeper dive into your psychology to find out why these things are affecting you so much. That really is part 3, finding out the reasons as to why a missed spare affects you. Is it a lack of confidence in your own abilities? Is it that you feel like you should be doing a lot better and that you have very high expectations of yourself? Once you start to delve into that side of it, then the reactions start to make a little bit more sense. And then you can deal with the reason why you're reacting that way. So it is a long process, and it might take you months to get to where you need to be. But I think the point of this video is to hopefully show you that you don't have to be perfect. That I really believe you can have these moments of emotion, whatever that emotion is. But what you need to get to as a first step is to definitely be able to recognize what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And a lot of people can't do that. And then the second thing is to be able to move on from that straight away. So the trap I see a lot of people fall into when they're trying to get themselves into a better place, calmer, is that as soon as they have a moment where they lose control a little bit, they suddenly get panicked. They think that they've lost progress, that they're slipping back, but that's not the truth. Having emotions and expressing them is healthy. It's about doing it in the right way. And like I said, eventually you will get to the point, if you continue to work on this, where these things don't matter. Any external things that happen, whether it be bad luck, whether it be people you're playing against, whether it just be the pressure of the situation, you can definitely get to a point where your body might react to it, you might have some thoughts, but you're almost looking from above. If you imagine right now and you're honest with yourself and you're somebody who gets very angry, very frustrated, maybe even struggle with extreme pressure, you're caught up in it. You're not aware of it. You're not able to step back and analyze. You're living through it. The goal is to be able to observe it from above. And when you can do that, it's far easier to keep control and then therefore process what needs to be processed. To summarize all of this and answer the question, my personal opinion is that nobody is really any more lucky than anybody else. It's simply an illusion. We remember the times when other people get lucky, and we remember the times when we get incredibly unlucky. We just don't remember the times when we do have good fortune. And because of that, it creates such a distorted perception in our minds that we start to buy into this good luck, bad luck theory. But at the end of the day, if you were to record everything, all of your lucky shots and all of your unlucky shots, I think you would be amazed at how equal it actually is. And you actually might find that you get far more luckier breaks than you actually think. But when you run it all out over a season, I really believe that everything makes up for everything. You know, the good happens, the bad happens, but ultimately it gets equaled out over a longer period of time. The problem is we only look at the short term. We don't remember the longer term. And that might be a good exercise actually for you to try, whether it be during league or tournament. Just have a small bit of paper and you could mark one side as lucky and the other side as unlucky. And with each shot, just think, okay, was that a lucky shot? Did I get away with that one? But yes, and that could be things like maybe you completely missed your mark, but the ball still held, or you got a lucky break somehow. And on the other side, make a little mark for every time that you felt you got really unlucky. And again, it's important to try and be as honest and objective as you can to think, okay, yes, you might have left a 10 pin, but was it really a really good shot, or did I make a not so good shot? Try and do that, and I think you'll be surprised at what comes out in the results. And hopefully with that sort of exercise and implementing the things that I've said about awareness and processing emotions, I think you will definitely find you are much calmer. The worst possible thing you can have is big highs and lows. That comes with being reactionary. As soon as you can maintain awareness about your state and your thoughts and remain non-reactionary, well, then you are well on your way to becoming an even better bowler who can handle pretty much any situation. Well, that brings us to an end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed this one, and I really hope the things that I've talked about will help you in your quest to become a better bowler. I'd love to hear your thoughts though. Let me know whether you think bad luck really does exist, or whether, like me, you think it all evens out in the end and that we have a pretty distorted view on our own luck. Well, thank you very much for watching, and as always, thank you bowling fans, and see you all next time.